What do you believe the goal is now for the 2025 Bears team in your mind?
My goal and my hopes coming into the season were pretty modest. I wanted them to finish like as a top half of the league offense, and I wanted you to feel good about the play caller quarterback marriage in this town for the first time in my lifetime. Right? I turned 38 in August. I don't think I've ever felt good about what that combination of people with the organization looked like. Even in moments where it felt like they had talent at quarterback, like with with Jay Cutler, they cycle between offensive coordinators seemingly every single year.
Yes.
And so for the first time, the chance to have some stability and some upward trajectory with that pairing specifically, that's all I wanted.
Robert has been coming on our show for a long, long time. He is the host of the Athletic Football Show. He is very, very talented on the entire league, but deep down, he remains a Bears fan, and that's one of the many things that we love about him. He joins us on the Yingling Guest Hotline right now as we're live at Hallis Hall. What's up, Mace?
I unfortunately felt that pretty deeply on Monday, and it's that tinge of hope. You guys know what that feels like. Like my heart beating out of my chest when he was kicking that field goal at the end. I was like, uh-oh. We're at a place where I'm bought in again. Like, I need them to win these games. And it's a fun place to be, but it can be a foreign place to be as a Bears fan when so many of these seasons have felt lost by the time we get toward Halloween.
It's so true. I think while I was scrolling, and we were just joking how I'm just like subconsciously scrolling when I'm not even really looking for anything or reading anything. But I think I did have a laugh at something that you posted. I'm showing Waddle the GIF now. Right after they won, like it's what of a guy sitting in a chair, like basically crying with his thumb up.
That is how I felt. I mean, I was happy that it was a great moment, but I was emotionally exhausted by the time that thing got finished, which again, it's a good place to be. The opening yourself up to those sorts of moments as a fan, I think that was always the hope this season, is that this would be a team playing meaningful games again sooner rather than later. And it feels like they're hopefully trending in that direction.
Yeah, I mean, listen, things are different. And we're sitting here at Hallis Hall, and we've felt this way for months now. And in large part because of who's leading the program now with Ben Johnson and the staff he assembled. Coaching truly matters, and I think this is Exhibit A, isn't it, Robert, that even at the highest level, and yes, it is a players' league, but these players need somebody to put them in position to take advantage of what they do so very well.
There's no doubt about it. And I think the disappointing thing when you watch last year's offense is that it really didn't make sense how the pieces were fitting together, how they were deploying guys. It just felt like that offense and the way that they structured it, they didn't give the players a shot. That's all you want. You just want to make sure you have a staff in place that's giving your players the best possible chance. And listen, it has not been all sunshine and rainbows over the first 6 weeks. I think that there have been moments where the offense has looked frustrating. It's looked disjointed. They've had a lot of self-inflicted penalties. They've had a lot of self-inflicted mistakes. But you watch what they looked like on Monday against Washington, and I really did feel like that was the first time all year where every aspect of the offense was starting to come together a little bit. You saw the offensive line that you want moving forward, and they played really well together. Darnell Wright had, one of his better games as a Bear in his first game back. The run game just looked so much smoother than it had at any point this season. There were still guys open in the passing game. This is a approach in training camp where they kind of threw everything against the wall, and we're going to see what stuck. And I think that leaves you very little time to prune what you're good at and hone in on that. And so the bye coming when it did, I thought was a really good chance for them to kind of take a step back, take a breath, and be like, okay, how do we start really focusing in on what we're going to be good at as a team? And I think you felt that a little bit on Monday, and it was really encouraging to see.
We always say, I don't want to get lost in the weeds. I know, let's get lost in the weeds here with regard to the running game. So after watching that on television and then looking at the film, why were they more efficient and more effective running the ball? And why were the different personnel groups used in the manner in which they were to take advantage of what Washington was doing?
I think what Washington struggles with is they struggle against perimeter runs. The way that their defense is built, they are pretty good at playing between the tackles, but they struggle if you try to get the ball out on the edge. Frankie Louvu and Bobby Wagner are very good blitzers at this stage in his career. Bobby Wagner does not have the range that he once did. And so I thought that the game plan was really sound against a team that is built and functions like Washington does. And then I think the three specific things stand out to me. I think Theo is a pretty good run blocker. And I do think you notice the difference in terms of aiming points, how he's getting up to the second level compared to some of the struggles that Braxton Jones was having, and one of the reasons that they ultimately benched him during that Raiders game. I thought that Cole Kmet had a much better game as a blocker than he had in that Raiders game, and undeniably, getting Darnell Wright back was huge. I mean, he's been very good in pass protection this year, but you watch some of the plays he made in space, and again, that kind of blends into the game plan they had trying to get the ball on the perimeter, and I just think it all came together in a very impressive way, and I think it can give you a little bit of hope about what this thing can look like moving forward.
I like that you said hope again, because before we get into Caleb and Ben Johnson specifically, I want to. You've mentioned this a couple of times, that there's hope, that you're starting to at least believe a little bit. So my question to you is, believe in what? What do you believe the goal is now for the 2025 Bears team in your mind?
My goal and my hopes coming into the season were pretty modest. I wanted them to finish like as a top half of the league offense, and I wanted you to feel good about the play caller quarterback marriage in this town for the first time in my lifetime. Right? I turned 38 in August. I don't think I've ever felt good about what that combination of people with the organization looked like. Even in moments where it felt like they had talent at quarterback, like with with Jay Cutler, they cycle between offensive coordinators seemingly every single year.
Yes.
And so for the first time, the chance to have some stability and some upward trajectory with that pairing specifically, that's all I wanted. Can you be an above average offense, and can you show us that the two guys most responsible for the success of that offense are linked together in a healthy way and are headed in the right direction? And so if we get to the end of the year and those two things are true, I'll be happy. If that means they're 7-10, if that means they're 10-7, that stuff matters a little bit less to me, because I think this is more about process than results.
All right, so then as we talk to Robert Mays, what do you see in Caleb Williams right now?
I think the sack avoidance compared to what it was last year is night and day, and that's beautiful to watch. I mean, the one sack I believe he took in the Washington game is the one where he's trying to make that play after on that boot to the left where he sticks in bounds when he probably shouldn't. That's more about the situational awareness, isn't it, than it is about sack taking. And so I think not completely torpedoing the offense by the amount of sacks that you're taking is a huge step in the right direction. I think that you watch him trying to make the right plays and his eyes going to the right places. It's still like a tick late, right? You can still feel the gears turning a little bit. All of this stuff isn't supernatural for him. He doesn't come to it very easily, but I think you clearly see the progress he's trying to make in that area. And I think he's using his legs in smart ways, and I think they're using his legs in smart ways. Doing it in situationally, on third down, in the red zone, some of these design runs, and then you see what he can do as a scrambler in some of those moments. So I think there are a couple things that he still needs to work on, right? I do think that some of the knowledge and awareness of where he is on the field in certain moments, right? There was a play in that game against Washington where he starts scrambling and then pulls up right before he gets to the line of scrimmage and sails one. I think it was for Olamide Zaccheaus.
Yes.
And that play on the sideline, on the left side. And then there's that play on the sideline. There's the feel he has with certain guys sitting down in zones. He missed OZ on that one. I just think that there is an overall feel for certain situational things at the position and also just where he is. I think it all feels at times like it's still a little bit frantic and he's still a little bit unsettled, but it's so much better in that area than it was last year that I think that the progress is way more encouraging than the deficiencies are deflating at this point, if that makes sense.
It's really interesting. I thought, having now seen the game a couple times and we're a few days away from it, I thought the fourth down play in the first half kind of is emblematic of the relationship and the growth between the quarterback and the play caller, because that's a play I think Ben calls for Jared Goff, maybe not for Caleb right now, because Caleb is probably – I was hoping for, Robert, that they were going to get him to the edge, a little run-pass combo. They called a play from the pocket where DJ gets an inside release, so that play is dead. you're double teamed across the middle deep, and Rome is coming on a shallow cross, and he's open. But Caleb doesn't, because like you said, his clock isn't moving as fast as it will 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks from now. He's late, and he throws the ball to Luvu. I don't know if you remember the play. It was a fourth down.
I absolutely do. And it was probably the one of all the plays in the entire game. It was the one where I was like, man, I'd love to see him make that,
Yes.
right? Where I'd love to see him see that just a tick quicker because it is open. And if he throws it immediately, that's a completion on fourth down.
So you know what I'm trying to say? Like that's where I think the quarterback and the coach they'll continue to find their way with each other. Maybe that's a play you call with Caleb at the end of the season, not now. Maybe his reflex was, hey, I've got a veteran quarterback. Maybe that's a play that Jared Goff sees quicker than Caleb. I'm not trying to be critical of either guy other than to say that it doesn't work, it will work in a month from now.
The fact, I want to see him be put in those situations because I want to see him grow into those situations.
Yeah.
Right? Like I think that there is a proper marriage between what does he do well so we can make sure we're tapping into that to give us our best chance while also keeping his long-term growth and trajectory in mind. Like I think it's okay to have some short-term failings for long-term gains in this situation because of how important his development is to their success in the long run. And even if it's not by the end of this season, Jared Goff was what? I mean, he was in year 5 by the time he got, or not even, I think it was year 6 was his first year in Detroit. And it was year 7, year 8 before he developed into this sort of guy in the pocket. Like, this is a long time that it takes to become this sort of quarterback to play from that space and to understand all of the nuances and what teams are trying to do to you. Like, just look at around the league right now. Look at what Baker Mayfield is doing and what Jared is doing and what Sam Darnold is doing and what Daniel Jones is doing. Like, this is a position where you're fully maturing mentally at 27, 28, 29 years old. And so I think we all just need to be like, just take a breath. Like, this isn't going to happen immediately. This is a guy that is now 22 starts in his NFL career, who played a very specific type of way in college and is being asked to do very different sorts of things right now. It's not going to look smooth all the time. It's going to be bumpy. There are going to be mistakes. There are going to be imperfections. And it's important to know that we have to live with that to understand the rewards that are going to be waiting on the other side of it.
We're talking to Robert Mays. It's Waddle and Silvy. We're live at Hallis Hall. I think you termed it, you could see or envision the gears in his brain still, spinning as it's not natural. He's not reacting. He's thinking. Waddle and I have had this discussion before. Do you believe that some of the accuracy issues are because he's thinking too much and he's just not out there playing with some of these things?
I think so. I think that's the case, and I think that you see some of them when he's really rushed. Like even some of the throws like on checkdowns into the flat and some of the smokes and, balls he's trying to get out of his hands quickly. I think that's where you see some of that stuff crop up. I also think some of the ball placement issues and some of the misses in this most recent game were just being on the wrong page with your receiver, right? Like a guy sitting down when you think you have to take him a little bit further up the field. And, hopefully that's stuff that you get a better sense of as you just play the position and sit in the offense and work with these guys a little bit more than he has. The accuracy thing has been so interesting because he didn't have accuracy issues in college, really. He wasn't that good of a downfield passer when it came to ball placement, and I don't think he ever will be. Right? Like, I don't think that's ever going to be – he's never going to – like, the guys who are really, really good at these outside-the-numbers vertical shots in the NFL, Jalen Hurts, Jaden Daniels, people like that. I don't think that will ever be a strength of his game. I honestly think the quarterback – and I've come to this just because I think the work they've done with Ben, he reminds me a lot of as a thrower of Jared Goff. They have this like whip-like arm. Some of the best work that they do are on some of these intermediate throws over the middle of the field. That's where you see his best moments. Jared isn't an adept down the field, outside the numbers thrower. And so as long as he can really hone that accuracy in the 0 to 10-yard area when they really let that ball rip, I think of the throw to Rome in the Raider game, right? Like that's the best moments that we see from him. And so I do think that you see the flashes of it, and you could hopefully just get a little bit better at cleaning up some of the inconsistencies.
I always joke with you that one of the reasons why we love having you on is you remember things that you say to us years later. Like, first of all, this wasn't necessarily something you said, but we were all together during the DJ Moore Carolina deal when the Bears traded out of the number one spot. We'll never forget that. We were all together. And then I remember this in the studio. I remember asking you the question about Mike McCarthy versus Ben Johnson. And I think you were the first one to sum it up perfectly. You're like, look, Mike McCarthy is a guy that the Bears would have hired in years past. You've got to take this big swing for Ben Johnson. This is the type of coach they've never had. This is the type of swing they never take. So with that bold statement that you told us, you were ahead of it then. Has Ben lived up to everything that you thought he would be?
I don't think I can say that, because I do think the offense was a little bit sloppy and uneven for the first 4 weeks of the year. I think let me tell you a cop-out answer. To me, it's still very, very early, right? If they can continue on the path that they started on Monday, we're coming out of the bye. It really looks like the offense understands itself. The offense is humming in the way that you want it to be. I think we can get to the end of this year, and I can feel pretty good about him being everything I wanted him to be as an offensive coach. I still need to see it a little bit more. The Raider game happened like 2.5 weeks ago, where they were really bad down to down against that Raider team and ultimately won that game because they had 4 turnovers and they blocked a field goal. Like, I still remember that. The Raiders are not a good team. And so I need a lot more games like Monday for me to feel like he's made good on what I thought he could be as a head coach. But I am very open to that happening over the rest of the year.
I think Dennis Allen deserves a lot of credit as well for the game plans that he has put together despite some of the issues that he has to work through from a talent standpoint. How repeatable is what they did against the Commanders in some ways, in your opinion?
I hope it is, just because I do think that I think Troy did a really good job, and obviously we can take issue with some of the things Troy said on that broadcast, but I think that one of the issues that you really saw for the first 4 games of the season is that there just was not enough physicality against the run when it came to like linebackers playing downhill, and missing TJ Edwards for as long as they have, I think, is absolutely part of that. But Tremaine Edmonds is a very well compensated off-ball linebacker. And so I wanted to see the front 7 just play with a little bit more oomph than they had over the first month of the season. I think you really saw that. Hopefully getting Kyler Gordon back, I thought it was an uneven game from him, in his first game back, and a couple mistakes. Obviously gives up the touchdown, and then, had a couple other moments where he was a little bit shaky in coverage. But as they get healthier, you would hope that combining that with the type of mindset and approach we saw from them on defense on Monday, if that can all come together, I do think they can get to a workable place by the end of the season.
What did you say about Aikman and about the issues?
I just think that people took issue with how he was framing a lot of the stuff that Caleb did in that game, which I completely understand.
Did you?
Yeah, I don't really – I thought that some of it was unfair. I thought that I thought his standard for what his expectations were from Caleb Williams in that game were pretty high. I think all of the moments where you could have given a young guy a little bit of grace, he refused to do it. Like, him not being able to handle the snap in that moment, like, that happens in an NFL game. Like, I just think that going back to he's a 22-year-old kid now in start 22, I just feel like there's some margin for error we should probably give this guy as he's still figuring out like who he is and how he's going to play the position.
It's very interesting. And then before we let you go, and outstanding as always, Mays, you're so good at what you do. Do you have a name of someone that could intrigue Ryan Poles to trade for at the deadline?
Yeah, that's a great question. I haven't thought about it yet. I think that there are a lot of teams that probably could be on the lookout for like an outside corner. I'm trying to think of like just random ones that might be expendable based on the team they're on right now. I'd have to think about it a little bit more. I think outside
text
corner
us,
is probably the spot I would think about. Like one name that comes to mind, this is not going to be exciting, but I think that he's got that's been benched. It's been up and down for them. Like somebody like Cam Taylor-Britt from the Bengals. Right, like a guy who's in the final year of his contract, it's a struggling team, like just getting another body in the room to potentially give you a little bit of competition there. Like, I don't know if you're going to be able to trade for any stars midway through the season at that position, but just an outside corner that you think could give you a slight upgrade. I think those are the types of guys I would have in mind.
Great stuff as always, Mays. Keep up the great work.
Thanks, Robert.